Hello there. I'm wondering if you can hear me. Just the going with this stuff. We should be ready to start in just a moment. And hopefully Dawn's going to be able to join us. We are having audio issues. If not, it's going to be me talking at you. Check. All right. Here we go. So yes, I think we're going to have to dive straight into this. And hopefully Dawn is going to be able to join us. All the fun things happening all the time. But yeah, I'm going to get introduced anyway. Thanks once again there to the placeholder, the holder, who is keeping things going while we descend into madness over here. Hello, it might just be me for a little bit, but let's get straight into this because it's 2 o'clock and all for the foreseeable every single day until forever, we're going to be talking about contact juggling at 2 o'clock. So yeah, let's dive straight into this. Today, we're going to be talking about some rolling. Yesterday, we talked about some balance. And today, we're going to talk specifically about inside rolling. And Dawn's in the chat. So Dawn, you can shout at her there, ask a question, and then hopefully they'll get passed on to me. We're getting closer every time. So yeah, feel free. And yeah, we'll see what we can cover. And hopefully I can cover what Dawn would cover as well. Anyway, that's just me talking quite a lot. So let's get straight in. So inside rolling. This is a really nice basic starting point. It's easier to control, and you're going to see why. What I mean by inside rolling is it's on this side, palm facing up, elbow facing up, and rolling down. So this is a really nice place to start, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up and then hopefully give some more advanced technique and some different ideas for stuff to try. Again, the idea of this challenge is we're going to spend the whole day just kind of trying one thing. So the way that Dawn likes to introduce this stuff, and I think it's really nice, is to kind of wake up these parts of the body. This is a really nice introductory thing to try, with placing the ball on and just moving it, kind of keeping those 2 points each time and just feeling it in the pathways that are made. We can come underneath, just kind of smile underneath this U shape, and we can go over the top as well. And putting those together into circles. Like that. Try those both ways. Again, just getting used to that feel of it moving on the arm. It's really good. We can cheat quite a lot when we're starting out because it's all waking up new pathways and things. So building off that, we can place the ball on and roll it down. Again, I kind of mentioned this yesterday with the balance. If you've got a nice flat place for the ball to be, it's going to stay in one place. So we take that same idea. Today we're talking about Descender. Again, Jeff Lemire, we're just going to work through his books over the week. So if we make that plane really steep, put the ball on, it's going to roll really quickly. It's going to be hard to control. If we make it just kind of shallow, it's going to roll a little bit slower, and we're just going to have that little bit extra control over it. So eventually we can stop it as well. So exactly the same thing applies on the body. If we're really steep and we place the ball on there, it's going to roll down really quickly. It's going to be hard to control. Just level it out and roll, much easier. That's my starting point. So if you're brand new to contact, if you've just picked up a ball, this is something you can do. Place on and just catch it in the arm, nice and level, catching the arm. Like that. We can do it the other way as well, just having this hand ready to receive it. Just a little tilt from the hand. So I tilt my fingers up. We can also come underneath. So we can push underneath to start off, move it to the other side, and push underneath to start off. This is a really nice way of starting as you're getting used to it, and then eventually you'll be able to just raise the hand a little bit and just roll it out like that. Having this hand ready to catch means you'll always have somewhere to put it, and you can turn it into something quite nice as well. Boom, boom, and back down. So yeah, fundamental ideas. We can add balancing into that as well. Those balances that we did yesterday of finding the control points on the arm and rolling in between. Again, trying to keep nice and level all the way through. Back in the day, if we can call it that, there was a big push towards this idea of you would learn contacts by learning a balance point and rolling it to another one. So to learn like a chest roll, you could break it up with points in between. This kind of point-to-point sort of rolling. It's kind of, it works, but it's a bit, you lose a bit of control as you're like throwing to one next point and then throwing back again. Trying to think of that balance all the way along. You are still kind of rolling point to point, but you're just finding more control points along the way. So it's just a bit more controlled, and you'll find you'll have a bit more variety as well. So yeah. The different types of roll. What Dawn would call gravity and momentum rolls. So gravity, and these kind of, they have their place, and you'll see there's different styles and there's different reasons to use them. When you're starting out, in particular, the tendency will be, or the temptation will be, to use these gravity rolls a lot. So you're going to be, like I said, making that really steep angle, because that's going to work. And you see a lot of people when they're starting out, they're coming down here like this. And it's less controlled, but it works. But you want to have this kind of rock underneath, this momentum behind it, so you've got that control. We can actually use this stuff. Like, it's not. This isn't to say that gravity rolls are bad, because there's times when we want to use it, we want to do interesting stuff with it. Say I want to take an inside roll from up here, it's going to, by its nature, be a gravity roll as it comes down. It's going to come, I can fold underneath and end up down here. And that's using entirely gravity on its way down. So it definitely has its place. There's definitely fun stuff we can do with it. But just to be aware that you need that control over it still. Just checking, so we've got a message from Robert here. Use the balance point to point, I think, is best to start at the difficult balance and roll back to the base position. Yeah, so this idea, and again, this is something I'm going to talk about in a second, finding a difficult balance technique, balance point for you, and rolling back to somewhere solid. And again, you're just waking up these points, learning these little movements that you need to keep it controlled. Yeah. So gravity, like, there's definitely stuff we can do with it, but you just be aware that when you're using it, it's going to be a little bit more reckless, a little bit harder to control, and generally, unless you're really going for a really kind of free movement, you're going to want just that little bit more control over it, and to be able to have those stops and starts really tricky with gravity stuff. But again, there's fun stuff we can do with that there. Momentum, like this kind of rocking underneath, is super, super helpful, especially for drilling, especially when you're starting out. You can really exaggerate these movements and feel like the balance of you and the ball at the same time, and how to hold that. Interesting, yeah. So Blake's saying there that gravity rolls being almost more like a toss. Definitely, like we talked about definitions like a week or so ago. And this idea of there's different levels of balance and control, where like dropping is being out of control, and then a solid grip like that is being most in control. And thinking of the whole spectrum in between. And definitely because of toss, even though it's not in your hands, it is still within your control. It's predictable. We know the path and everything like that. And yeah, with these rolls, it's the same. It is less predictable, but we still can bring it back under control. So yeah, we're thinking of that spectrum. It's kind of maybe slightly less controlled than a toss because we have that directionality with a toss. We can throw it to different places and know where it's going to go. We can build that into the gravity, but it's just that bit trickier unless you throw it down. I mean, that's another way you can actually start these things with a throw. It's a very quick roll, but we can have that little impetus at the start, that little motion of throwing as well. Yeah. So really nice, like mentioning it again there from like the toss juggling application of that. If you wanted to learn like on the arm showers and things with toss juggling with 3-ball, so useful for that pinball stuff. When you're bringing it up and around, there is all these kind of gravity rolls you're throwing on and letting the ball take its path afterwards. And I actually really like those throwing into position and rolling down, which, yeah, definitely going to just mention that in a second there. So, yeah. So momentum, that idea when we're starting out, we can have these like rocking underneath. But we can do interesting stuff with it as well. If you are getting into bridge rolls, you're kind of going to need that momentum. I'm aware now this microphone is right in my contact juggling space, so I may well hit it. But that moment when you come, I'm really worried about hitting it now. Come up like that, you want that momentum underneath it, that little push. And then on the way down, it's more kind of gravity-based coming underneath. But we can do interesting stuff. So like fun techniques that aren't maybe used as much. Starting below the chest. Normally we start our rolls kind of chest height because we've got that control here. Starting underneath and rolling out of those is really interesting. This kind of lower down position, it still fits our curves here, but just feels very different to do. So it's still inside rolling. It just has this different shape on it, this different feel to it. So yeah, I just want to like tying this stuff together. Again, we don't want these videos to run too long. We just want to throw ideas and you can play around with this and see what you come up with. Placing on, it's super good. It's a technique that I use all the time anyway. It's nice, like if you're coming out of isolation ideas, you can just place and roll. So you see, I'm placing on, I teach this when I begin. I place on the elbow here and roll down. But as you get more comfortable, you can place anywhere and roll with it. Again, we're talking mainly about this inside rolling. Coming up higher, going past the elbow and rolling down. This section here, like after the elbow, between elbow and shoulder, kind of bicep, tricep area, is super important for contact, especially when you start getting into the bigger chest rolls and neck rolls and things. Having control here is so useful. So when you're placing on, come higher, start at the shoulder and roll down. You can give a little nudge if you like, just to get it rolling, just that tiny little roll with the thumb, coming up and coming down, just to release like that. Yes, wait, we should definitely get Brendan and testing. That's a really interesting start. So yeah, so coming up higher, sticking on this inside point here, and then you can really play around with that as well. What I really like is placing on the same hand and releasing down to the same arm there. Again, really nice when you're starting out. And it's, again, this point here is not exploited all that often. Like we don't drill it as much, but it's super, super nice. So cradles and things we'll talk about like as we get into the other side of the arms, which I think we're going to talk about either tomorrow or the day after. I need to check my list for that. Like this side is super important. It has some other nuances that we're going to talk about. But sticking with the inside just now. Like chest rolls, like making curves and things. Again, we'll talk about all that later. But if you make sure that your arms aren't jagged when you're rolling, like it's possible, but it's less elegant than just having the nice curve and letting it go to where it wants to be. So yeah, placing on it in all different places, placing behind the head, placing and rolling down the opposite side, and yeah, trying to stop it in different places as well and redirect. The momentum stuff's really nice for redirecting because we can come underneath and we start to feel that kind of rock, but you don't need it. And eventually you'll be able to just play with the kind of the level of your arm, like the plane of it, be able to just bring those things under control without having to stop, without having to actually go into a stall, just keeping that movement all the time. Inside elbow to palm iso roll. Yes, yeah. So that's really nice. Yeah, feeding a good practice. So Blake there says inside elbow into palm iso roll. Like this to do is try and get this continuous movement. Like no matter what you're doing, having that movement continuous, ending with palm circles to tie it together. I'm going to talk a little bit about especially chest rolls, because for me, chest rolls and palm circles are really closely linked together. The way that I think about them is very similar, but that's definitely a slightly deeper thing for chest roll day, which we might do a slightly extended version. I think butterfly day, the plan is to do a more kind of detailed butterfly thing. Yeah. All of these kind of drills, all these practices, when you're doing them, we just apply the same thinking that we were applying last time. So can I actually do this in the first place? Am I doing it controlled? What's my offhand doing? Is it out of control? Is it making gecko hands? Is it chasing around all over the place? Am I solid? There's lots of good movement stuff to be done with just these inside rolls, like surprisingly, like following them up, chasing them around, doing your height changes and things at the same time. Like while it's rolling, your movement can be really separated. And yeah, like all of these things, we'll talk about bridges separately. It is kind of in the same place, but in a different context. And there's really good drills we can do around that, which we'll build up to as we go along. And yeah, so that's a whole bunch of stuff to think about there. Now's a good time to shout at me if there's anything obvious that I've missed. Dawn, you're in the chat there. I still can't hear you. But if you want to type stuff, I can read it because I've probably missed something obvious. Yeah. But otherwise, so that's, again, this is the kind of feel that we want for these. This is going to be information thrown at you, but there is follow-up and people are doing follow-up and it's good. Blake posted a really, really good video about balance, apropos our discussion yesterday. That's super, super good. And we've got it on our Facebook, but I'll find a way to maybe get the link into here. I'm actually not sure how good YouTube is for linking stuff. But if you go on Facebook and look at the kind of discussion that's going on there, that's a really good video as well, because he knows stuff and isn't just chatting away like me. Definitely check that out. And in the comments there, he's saying he wants to do the index flip video. Man, just do it. Get on here, and hopefully we'll be able to hear you because we're having issues with that right now. But yeah, I want to do an in-depth dive into index flips and all the flipping off that you can do with the fingers. I think that's that could be really good. So why not? Why not? We're going to stick with arm stuff tomorrow. We're going to get into some outside rolling and shaking it up like that. Again, if there's stuff, if you want this to be more in depth on anything, or if there's stuff you think that we've missed, please let us know. And then after that, so the day after, so tomorrow rolling stuff, the day after that, we've got butterflies planned. And butterflies may well end up being a big topic that we talk a lot about because we have emotions about butterflies. So yeah, that's kind of the official stuff for now. Keep joining us tomorrow. People are talking about it and doing stuff, so that's really nice. Thank you. And getting involved, which is really good. I like that a lot. And rolling stuff. If you have questions, please just ask. We have lots of time on our hands now, believe it or not. Although Animal Crossing came out, so we have slightly less time on our hands now. Yeah, like linking chest and palm isos, like fractal stuff around this is really interesting. Yeah, good stuff, which I want to talk about, but I end up rambling, and so I'll try and keep it focused. As you noticed, I'll probably start rambling at the drop of a hat. Good, 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 good. So yeah, thank you to all of that, and we'll find a place to centralize videos that people are adding to this because people are adding good stuff. Until tomorrow, then I'll say happy juggling, and look after each other. It's a little bit weird out there, but we'll get through it, you know. Take it easy, guys. Thank you for hanging out. I don't know if the chat's going to close immediately, but if it does, then bye, chat. If it doesn't, then keep chatting. That's perfect. And we'll see you tomorrow.